Along with this comes the push to abolish the NTF-LCAC, but some lawmakers are still divided on the matter. Marian Enriquez with the big story tonight.
In a landmark decision, the Supreme Court has defined red tagging, calling it a threat to life, liberty, and security. The High Court stated that red tagging often leads to various forms of harassment and intimidation, and sometimes even to the death of individuals. Because of this, the SC said that it is necessary to issue a writ of amparo or provide a remedy for the court to anyone whose rights to life, liberty, and security are violated due to unlawful acts by the government or private individuals. This decision stemmed from the complaint of activists and Vice President of the Bayan Muna party list, Sigfred De Duro. De Duro filed a petition for a writ of amparo at the Iloilo Regional Trial Court after he was accused of being an official of the CPP-NPA. The Iloilo Court dismissed it, prompting the petition to be elevated to the Supreme Court. In a statement, De Duro said that he is glad that the Supreme Court and Bank decided in favor of his petition. He added that this clearly refutes the NTF-LCAC's assertion that their rampage of red tagging of activists is a benign exercise of truth tagging. Having said that, De Duro said that he still fears for his life, liberty, and security. For the Makabayan bloc, the government should take concrete steps to stop red tagging. That is why they are continuing their call for the abolition of the NTF-LCAC.
Very least tanggalan ng budget at the most talagang i-abolish na, no? Wala itong naidudulot na maganda sa ating bansa. Buwagin ito, ilaan ng pondo sa batayang serbisyo.
According to lawmakers, those who engage in red tagging should be held accountable. For Kabataan Party List Representative Raul Manuel, it's time to criminalize red tagging or pass a law making it a criminal offense. In fact, Manuel already filed the proposed bill for this back in July 2022.
Kaya naman, dapat lamang talaga na para magkaroon ng mga mekanismo para mapanagot ang mga red tagger at makita nila na hindi sila untouchable. Dapat lamang na maging batas na ang House Bill 1152.
However, there are some lawmakers who are not in favor of abolishing the NTF-LCAC, such as House Deputy Majority Leader Ino D. According to D, the said task force is a significant help in their area, particularly in Isabela.
Meron po marami po kaming armed conflict dati. Definitely, nabawasan na po ito, kumonti na, but it still exists in certain parts of the country. So yun po yung completing gusto natin mawala. Pero because of some of the programs of the NTF-LCAC, marami po talagang natulungan at nabawasan yung insurgency problems natin.
In the end, the decision on what to do with the NTF-LCAC reportedly lies with the executive branch. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
Joining us now to help us make sense of this landmark decision, we have with us live via Zoom Atty Chel Diokno, Chairman of the Free Legal Assistance Group, or FLAG. Good evening, Attorney. Thanks for being with us on such short notice tonight.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight.
Lots to break down here. First of all, what was your reaction when the decision first came out? It's a 39-page full court decision. What did you think of it?
Oh, we welcome the decision. It reinforces the position that we have had for a very long time, that red tagging endangers our rights and can lead to even more serious human rights violations.
But again, in terms of the definition, which is red tagging is a threat to life, liberty, and security, do you think the ruling goes far enough to protect individuals?
I think the ruling will go a long way to protecting ordinary citizens, because what I've seen is that it's really ordinary people and those who want to speak out and express themselves who become the victims of red tagging. I've had, for example, there was a student I know who had to stop schooling for a year because he was red tagged by some military officials. There was even a judge of a regional trial court who was red tagged, and the person who did that was eventually fined by the Supreme Court. And her husband as well, who was a chancellor of the University of the Philippines, was also red tagged. So we can see that it can become really an irresponsible weapon of branding people without any basis and also without any due process.
And then also, just to get the definitions out of the way, the Supreme Court also granted the writ of amparo. What is a writ of amparo for the for those of us who are not lawyers? What is the
Well,
significance
writ of
of this?
amparo is an order issued by a court for the protection of a person whose life, liberty, or security of person is either under threat or is really being violated already. This was first introduced by the court. It's new writ. It was introduced in 2007 by then Chief Justice Puno, and it has been used really to help ordinary citizens who are the victims of powerful people and those who are in authority who tend to abuse their power.
Right. Of course, this particular reply or decision from the Supreme Court stemmed from a Siegfried De Duro, who was head of a Visayas chapter of Bayan Muna. But to your knowledge, since you do give a lot of free legal advice, attorney, do you know or do you help out a lot of people who have been victims of red tagging?
Yes, actually, I myself have been the victim of red tagging. The organization which I chair, the Free Legal Assistance Group, has been the victim of red tagging. Aside from those I mentioned earlier, other students, many people from different sectors of our society have also been red tagged, including lawyers and human rights defenders, teachers, workers, many of them, or just ordinary people going about their lives and fighting for advocacies. And that's really one of the dangers of red tagging, because it makes people think twice before they speak and before they do what they believe is right. And it really chills our freedoms of expression and assembly.
And do you also believe that the NTF-ELCAC should be abolished? A lot of human rights groups are calling for the abolition of the NTF-ELCAC after this Supreme Court ruling. Are you of the same opinion?
The NTF-ELCAC has been one of the biggest red taggers ever in our country. And I don't think that that really should be part of any government structure. I think that the money that's given to the NTF-ELCAC could be better used to help our people with the basic problems we have of rising prices, lack of food, education, health. Dapat doon pumunta yung pera, hindi sa NTF-ELCAC.
The closest reference to red tagging prior to this was by Justice Marvic Leonin. He called red tagging red baiting. With the more explicit definition of red tagging, what does it mean for legal remedies being sought by those red tagged?
Well, first of all, it means that if you are the victim of red tagging, you can go to court and seek the protection of the court by way of a writ of amparo, or in other ways by way of an injunction or other legal remedies. But if I may add, red tagging has been around for a long time. The first documented case of red tagging that I know of happened way back in the 1950s, when the then Secretary of Justice red tagged none other than Senator Claro M. Recto, Speaker Elojo Rodriguez, Senator Lorenzo Tañada, and Arsenio Lacson, among others. That was also the first case where the Supreme Court stepped in and joined. They issued an injunction to stop that kind of red tagging. So we really are very happy and we welcome the Supreme Court decision.
There's also the anti-terror law, of course, that came out in that whole era nung nauso yung pagre-red tag ng NTF-ELCAC. How does this then, in your opinion, attorney, provide some sort of safeguard for people who are afraid, na baka gamitin yung anti-terror law against them?
Well, the anti-terror law really is a different kind of legal animal. And my own personal opinion as far as that law is concerned is that it should be repealed. But in any event, because I believe that there are other ways to address the issue of terrorism without infringing on our people's rights. But in any event, as far as red tagging is concerned, I think that this really sends a message to those in government and even outside government to be more responsible with how they brand people. I've said this before, if the government has evidence that persons are breaking the law, engaging in rebellion or some other kinds of crimes, then definitely they should go after them in court. But they should stop just branding anyone they believe or want to brand as a red or terrorist without any basis and without any due process.
So, attorney, you spoke about getting the protection of the court here, but how about consequences for those who actually red tag I mean, for one, I have been a victim of that, being put in the matrix falsely. Is there, apart from protection of the court, what can I do to hold the people behind that accountable?
Basically, there are many things that you can do. If the red tagging is also a form of libel or cyber libel because it tends to destroy one's reputation. So that is available. A civil suit for damages under Article 32 of the Civil Code for infringing on our freedom of expression is also available. If the person who red tagged belongs to the government, administrative cases for grave misconduct and other administrative offenses can be filed. Complaints can also be filed with the Commission on Human Rights. The issue can be brought to the United Nations. Court cases can be filed to put a stop or to enjoin the people who are red tagging. So this is also a way of informing everyone that if you are a victim, there are remedies available.
Well, can the ruling be applied retroactively?
I think so, in the sense that it's a recognition by the court that the practice of red tagging in itself is a very dangerous practice in terms of our basic rights to life, liberty, and security. And therefore, if I, for example, was red tagged previously, I could now cite this decision as a recognition by the court and pursue the legal remedies available for that kind of practice.
So then how should individuals who feel that they've been red tagged go about this process? I mean, I'm sure you've got enough on your plate at Flag. What would be their first course of action should they feel that they're covered by this ruling?
Well, the first thing would be to document the incident. If you were red tagged online, then take a screenshot, see if you can trace the person or the identity of the one who did the red tagging, and then immediately consult a lawyer. There are many progressive lawyers around who would be willing to help. My organization is there, the Free Legal Assistance Group. There are other organizations. And because I think that with this ruling of the Supreme Court, it now provides really much more encouragement to us to have this practice stopped, because it is really an irresponsible practice.
Well, interesting enough, in the decision also, there is a special mention on the transition of the red tagging to social networking sites where frequent surveillance and direct harassment is being done. Can you, for one, protect yourselves against trolls?
You know, that was one of the issues when one of our regional trial court judges was red tagged by a former NTF-LCAC official, Lorraine Batoy. She was trolled, and so many threats were made to her online. And of course, there's no way that we can prevent that from happening in the first instance. But I think this decision will make a lot of people think twice before they do that sort of thing. It's a call and a warning to them that you could be prosecuted, and cases could be filed against you if you do this, if you red tag.
Well, it's easier if the person red tagging you is a known personality. But what if they're anonymous? What can victims do in that case?
I would suggest that you bring the matter to the cybercrime, anti-cybercrime divisions of the Philippine National Police and the National Bureau of Investigation, and bring the matter as well to the National Privacy Commission. Because in many cases, red tagging is also a violation of our right to privacy. That's why there are many available remedies. It's just that we must really avail of them to put a stop to this pernicious practice.
Well, to be honest, there is so much difficulty already on that end. I mean, for one, scams, we can't trace those who perpetrate these scams. I mean, what more? The trolls who are anonymous online. I'm not sure what kind of help or assistance the anti-cybercrime division can make.
But I guess, as attorney said, the first step is really documentation. We need to get as much documentation as you can.
Now, if you're taking it to court, you have to provide the evidence as well. I think that's how it works, right, attorney?
Yeah, and you know, there are instances where our government agencies, like the cybercrime units, have been able to trace and identify specific persons. There are instances where they're checked and counter-checked also against posts made on Facebook and other social media apps. It's not as impossible as we think it is. May mga paraan din naman.
That's good to hear. And then, lastly, completely off topic, and I hope you forgive me for asking this because the last time we spoke to you, Attorney, you said you were still considering your options for 2025 for the elections. I'm wondering if you've made up your mind.
Wala pa naman.
Okay,
It's still early.
Still early.
I have been trying to get the pulse of the people. I've been going around. And of course, it's something that I want to serve. That's very clear in my mind and in my heart. But how I will do that right now, I feel I've been able to help a lot of people with my free legal help desk online, with my explainers on TikTok and IG and YouTube. Maraming salamat po sa mga nagsasabi na nakakatulong po yung mga ginagawa ko. But it's really early. Let's wait until October.
Fair enough. We will check back in with you then. Thank you so much for joining us once again tonight and helping us make sense of this new ruling. Attorney Chel Diokno, Chairman of the Free Legal Assistance Group.
Right, moving on to macroeconomic matters. The Philippine economy grew at a faster pace in the first quarter compared to the previous 3 months, but it did fall short of analyst estimates after the extreme heat curtailed household spending. Shaila Francisco breaks down those numbers for us.
The Philippine economy grew 5.7% in the first quarter of the year, amid stubbornly high, and this is higher than the 5.5% expansion recorded in the fourth quarter of last year, but below the government's 6 to 7% target band for the year and below analysts' expectations. The National Economic and Development Authority, or NEDA, said extreme heat curtailed economic activity.
From the start of the year, we have been experiencing several shocks. The major ones being the long period of the heat wave, and related to that, the El Nino, and geopolitical tensions. We must acknowledge the moderate growth in our domestic demand, which reflected the less favorable business sentiment. Construction slowed down, no doubt affected by prolonged periods of extreme heat. Household spending also slowed.
For a consumption-driven economy like the Philippines, a decline in household spending is bad news. And the Philippine Statistics Authority said the current figure is the weakest since 2010, excluding the pandemic.
Yung consumption kasi siya talaga yung nagdadala ng growth. Karamihan kadalasan ay usually about 75% kasi ng ekonomiya ay paggastos or consumption. So pag bumagal siya, when you see this mainstay sector slow down, talagang haatakan niya yung buong GDP number. Pero yung price levels baka masyado mataas pa rin. So that could actually be hurting or slowing some of the spending. Baka nga medyo gipit talaga yung mga households.
Still, the Philippines remains one of the fastest growing economies in the region, tied with Vietnam and second only to India. NEDA says it is working with utility companies to manage the supply and demand for electricity and water. And NEDA Secretary Arsenio Balisacan says the outlook for the economy in the medium term remains bright. Shaila Francisco, WR1 News.
Heightened geopolitical tensions with China are not hurting the Philippine economy, at least not yet. That's according to Socio-Economic Secretary damage on the Philippines. Bank of America noted that China was the Philippines' largest source of tourists pre-COVID and could be a major source of investments. Balisacan said the country isn't turning its back on Beijing.
We are not turning against China. It's on the other hand, we are looking at all these opportunities that even our Chinese businesses could always deploy in the Philippines. We want to ensure that the implementation of our projects, like our infrastructure, would not be affected by geopolitical tensions, no?
And yet, the Department of Foreign Affairs is tightening visa rules for Chinese nationals beginning this week. Undersecretary Jesus Domingo says this is in light of the increase in fraudulent applications and fake documents they've been receiving.
A key problem is the submission of fake documents. And what are these fake documents? Again, supposed government issued IDs, Chinese government IDs, bank statements, certificates of employment. Our reforms are aimed largely at better security. There will be more confidence that there'll be less instance of unsavory people coming in to commit heinous crimes against fellow Chinese. So we think that these measures will only boost more confidence in the Chinese market coming to the Philippines.
Among the new requirements for visa applicants are a Chinese social insurance certificate, personal appearance at the consular office, round-trip plane tickets, and confirmed hotel booking, a notarized invitation or affidavit of support from the host in the Philippines, and proof of financial capacity. Obviously, the timing of this new measure is a bit funny given the elevated tensions over in the West Philippine Sea. But Yusek Domingo insists that has nothing to do with this and said it has to do with curbing Pogo-related crimes.
This is also something that is also for the good of the Chinese because, again, itong mga Pogo nakalusot, who are their main victims? Fellow Chinese. So it's just no, it's not necessarily related to the other, say, national security considerations.
Up next, we'll be speaking with AFP Spokesperson Francel Padilla about the audio recording on the so-called new model that Beijing says it holds. More on that when the big story returns.
Regina, Shawn, and Gretchen, and good evening to all the viewers of The Big Story.
Colonel, medyo malakas ang loob ng Chinese Embassy in Manila to say that they will release an audio recording plus a transcript of this conversation, of this agreement. I mean, first of all, does China have some sort of a direct line with the AFP officials?
From the side of the AFP, we do not wish to dignify this statement anymore because this is clearly a propaganda on the side of the Chinese. The transcript, as our chief of staff has said, could easily be fabricated. We do not have any proof that it is authentic, and for all we know, the telephone conversation that is being said might even be a deep fake.
Okay, so are you saying, Colonel, that Westcom chief Carlos never spoke to any Chinese officials? How do these things even go? If there's no direct line, do they have some sort of mechanism where they are constantly in touch in an official capacity?
Any personnel from the Armed Forces of the Philippines, wala po kami na any wala kaming direct line to this embassy officials. We cannot come into an agreement. So for this agreement that involves national security and it has national security implications, it can only be the president. So the DFA already gave the statement on this, as well as the NSC and also the DND. And we are one with them from the AFP side that this is only pure propaganda to dissuade us from the real issue of what's really happening in the West Philippines.
Before you concluded that this is propaganda and fake news, did you do some sort of investigation down the line of officials who were implicated by the Chinese embassy?
For the side of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, we do not react on unsubstantiated, unverified, and questionable sources.
Okay, so no. Colonel.
I understand, the suspicion over the so-called audio recording, because as you pointed out, it has yet to be proven. But they have also released a transcript of that conversation to two news outlets, to Manila Times and to Bloomberg, right? So of course these news outlets are themselves trying to verify the origins of this transcript. But let's say if proven correct, what is the AFP going to do? One of the items on that transcript points out, for instance, that the Admiral Carlos has agreed to notify China at least 2 days ahead of a resupply mission. Let's just assume at this point that it is proven to be true. What is the AFP's recourse?
Again, ma'am, we remain with our stand that we wish to put this issue already into the grave because this is not the real issue at hand. So we would rather talk about how we would fortify our national security, secure our sovereignty on the side of how the AFP will be better equipped, better be prepared towards external aggression and not really delve on propaganda issues.
Okay, fair enough. So let's talk about fortifying our defenses. What is the AFP doing at the moment in terms of addressing the issues in the West Philippine Sea?
From the start of the onset of the year, we already began with a tall order from our president to finish once and for all our insurgency problem. So as you can see, the AFP is really focused and determined to finish this insurgency problem in order for us to face a bigger challenge, which is external defense. So with this external defense, we are also very focused, and you can see the zeal of every Filipino and U.S. troops in our Balikatan exercises that are happening, and you will see that the training is really on the way, as well as our modernization projects.
Colonel, medyo babalik ko lang sa Western Command, no? Kasi hindi maiwasan na malagyan ng kulay yung timing of the Vice Admiral Carlos taking a leave during such, an important time where he was actually implicated here. Has he been notified about what's been happening? What has been his reaction?
For sure, ma'am, no, he's also viewing the news. But his leave was effective since the 3rd of May. His deputy, General Quemado, already took the helm of command as his acting commander since the 3 of May, well before the transcripts and the news came out of this so-called transcript of an alleged conversation. No? And it was only during the 6th of May that the assumption of Vice Admiral Torres was put into place. No? So this happens in order for us to have a, to be able to put somebody in charge, no? So that we will not have a leadership vacuum. So pag may mga matataas na opisyal po tayong umaalis down the line, no, we really designate somebody in an acting capacity.
For the
So si
purposes
General
of
Torres acting capacity po siya during the absence po of Vice Admiral Carlos.
for the purposes of connecting with Vice Admiral Carlos, until when is he on leave?
There is no date that was specified for his leave, but Vice Admiral Torres will take his place during this the duration of his absence.
And
Sorry, Colonel,
will
that sounds a little bit unusual for him not to have an end date on his leave. If it is a personal leave, and he is a high-ranking official, should that not be made public?
That is why we have somebody in an acting capacity. So the same is true when even our chief of staff went abroad. During the duration of his travel abroad, there is somebody who's taking his place
Correct.
as an officer in charge. So if his trip extends, then that is the duration, of course, also of the acting capacity. So the same is true with the orders of Vice Admiral Torres. He is in an acting capacity during the duration of the absence of the incumbent.
Correct, but when the chief of staff travels abroad, there is a clear start date and end date to his travel, to his being away from the country. Same
Yes,
goes
but there's still the possibility of it being extended. That's why the orders are open-ended.
Okay, we understand also that it was Vice Admiral Carlos who was hit, or whose boat he was riding was hit by a water cannon like earlier this year. His leave has nothing to do with that, or any injuries possibly incurred in that encounter?
That could be a possibility. So we respect his application for personal leave. So we will not divulge the reason, as we would like to respect his decision to file for a leave.
And his interim replacement, as you said, are there new marching orders for this? The one currently in head, or Rear Admiral Torres, is it, who's currently heading the Westcom? Have there been a change in how he was ordered, perhaps, to conduct whatever activities you normally do out there?
So tuloy-tuloy pa rin po yung operations natin. No? So he was put into an acting capacity para hindi nga po tayo magkaroon ng leadership vacuum. In that sense as well, we continue with our operational mix in terms of our operations in the area at Westcom.
All right. Thank you so much for coming here, joining us on the big story tonight. I think is it the first time we're seeing her?
No,
Because usually
it's
phone
not.
her.
Okay, on Zoom you mean?
Yeah, right. Thank you so much again. Speaking for the Armed Forces of the Philippines, we have Colonel Francel Padilla.
We're going to pause for a quick one right now, but right after that, senators chide the Justice Department for publicizing the ICC briefer that they're preparing for President Marcos, saying that it's distracting from bigger issues. The details when we
Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News.
Some senators are accusing the Justice Department of fueling the fire in the ongoing feud between the Marcoses and the Dutertes. That's after the DOJ announced that they will discuss legal options for the president on how to handle the ICC's possible issuance of warrants against some Philippine officials, including former President Duterte. Camille Samonte has that report.
Senator Cheese Escudero questioned the Justice Department's motive in announcing that they are now preparing a legal briefer to prepare President Marcos for the possibility that the International Criminal Court will issue warrants of arrest against Filipino nationals, including former President Rodrigo Duterte. Escudero believes these actions are not helping cool down or mend tensions between the Dutertes and Marcoses. Senator Sonny Angara shares the same sentiment. He says the DOJ's move does not help solve issues being faced by the nation.
Parang nadidistract tayo dito sa tit for tat between the two camps, di ba? Imbis na mag-focus dun sa issues na palagi ko mas mahalaga sa ating mga kababayan, yung issues of inflation, di ba? Issues of yung national security, di ba? So, we should learn from the past where politics should not always be at the forefront. There are times where politics, you should put it on. Dapat, santabi muna yung politika, di ba? Unahin natin yung importante.
Angara speculates this move may have been meant to serve as a warning against the former president.
Maybe it's a warning shot or something, I don't know. I don't know what the purpose is.
Meanwhile, Senator Nancy Binay says the ongoing feud between the Marcoses and the Dutertes took her by surprise.
Expectation ko nga dahil since I think for the longest time, ngayon lang nangyari na magkakampi from the same slate yung presidente at saka vice president. So I would assume na mababawasan yung politika, di ba? Parang ngayon lumalabas na may ganitong ano ba yan? Hindi pagkakasunduan.
Binay attributes this seeming power struggle to the 2025 midterm elections.
Baka nga it's a factor kaya may ganyang bangayan eh. Ang nakakalungkot lang, dati usually pag presidensya lang nagkakaroon ng ganyang bangayan. But ngayon, I guess nagbabago na rin yung politika. Maaga pa yan. Baka ngayon, every election may ganyang power struggle.
For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
Some employees of Cebu City Hall are celebrating their win against Mayor Mike Rama, who has been suspended over unpaid salaries and discrimination for workers. But there are still those who continue to support the mayor and are dismayed about the 6-month preventive suspension ordered by the ombudsman.
Kasi matulungin ang tao na yan. Yung mayor natin matulungin. Para siyang tatay namin siya dito. Yung iba hindi naman anong natulong. Bait naman si mayor. Bait naman sa amin dito. Nabutin kami na gano'n nangyari sa mayor namin.
The ombudsman ordered the suspension of Mayor Rama and 7 other government officials over administrative charges that include grave conduct, unbecoming of a public officer, grave abuse of authority, and others. This stems from a complaint filed by some Cebu City Hall employees who said they were not paid their salaries for 10 months. Though the City Council has already created an ordinance to pay them, the employees only received 4 months' worth of their pay, apparently. That's why they say they're happy about the ombudsman's decision.
Nakakasurpresa pero same time nakakakaba kasi hindi namin alam kung anong mangyari mamaya o bukas kasi malaking tao to sila, si Mayor, ang City Admin. So kami mga ordinaryong empleyado lang po. So may takot din. Pero masaya kami kasi may justice.
Happy lang talaga. And then, kasi ang hirap na dinanas namin 10 months bitaw. Hindi talaga especially nung nandun pa kami sa opisina na yung mga tao parang kinukundi na ka. May marami sinasabi na hindi mo kaya sa sarili mo ba.
Let's move on to the world of sports. Game 1 of the 2024 PVL All-Filipino Conference Finals begins today. And currently, it is the Choco Mucho Flying Titans that are ahead against the Creamline Cool Smashers. The Flying Titans and Cool Smashers were neck and neck throughout the first. It was only until setter Dina Wong set up CC Rondina twice before getting a point of her own to secure the 26-24 set 1 win for Choco Mucho. However, set number 2 is looking like it's going Creamline's way as they look to settle or even the match. The last time that these two teams faced was just last week in the semifinals, where Choco Mucho escaped with a 5-set victory. This is the second time that the sister teams are facing off in the PVL finals.
Oh, it's live.
It
Yes,
is live.
It is live.
Oh, you must
live.
miss-
You're in the second set.
You must miss
I
being
do.
on the court so much.
I do. And I chose to be here with you guys.
I could feel your longing as you were reading that
No, but
story.
it's my teammates who are battling over there. Teammates in Creamline and Choco Mucho.
They're actually right behind
What's the
you.
score?
There's a big...
Oo, si Eliza, ayan si sino ba yan? Ayan, si Bea De Leon,
What's the
So,
score?
Maddie
22-15.
Madayag.
One.
They're on a different teams. There you go. We have players, and you can catch that game live on One Sports. Creamline is now ahead, 22-15. This might go all the way to 5 sets.
I think it will go to 5 sets. Give fans what they want.
I should take you guys to a game, no?
Yeah. I would love
Do they
that
always
live
air
commentary.
together with us?
Would I
Is
have to
anyone still
explain the
watching
game?
us? Because
No naman.
But some of the strategic bits, I think
sige,
so. I
sige.
think you would know better. Because, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward game. But I think in terms of talking through the strategy and what they're thinking.
Well, it's not just, it's 17,457 in the Araneta
Wow.
Coliseum right now.
supposedly, I know that their capacity is 15,000. So that
Sa
means they
Araneta.
are packed with fans.
So I think that
Full
was,
house.
it was Sunday. I'm not sure if it was Sunday or last weekend, where nagsabay yung UAAP and PVL. And both were jam-packed.
Wow.
Totaling more than 30,000 fans in Mall of Asia Arena and Araneta Coliseum. Before, yung Araneta, nung time ko, yung palang yung napuno namin. We were the first batch to play in Araneta.
Mo is larger.
Mo was bigger.
bigger.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is a huge development for volleyball, getting 2 arenas packed.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
look
you know,
at
I've
the
noticed...
video. It's like not an empty seat inside.
It is, and it's also like, growing up, this was basketball country, and then suddenly I became old, and now there's a new sport. I'm actually really happy that we are now focused on more than one sport, and it's really popular, and there are fans, trooping over to Araneta kahit traffic ngayon or whatever, walang masakyan, etc. Maybe they're
and also
spending
the fact that it's female sports, women's sports,
Yeah.
right? That's drawing in the crowds for
Why do you think
change.
it's, people enjoy watching female volleyball more than men?
Because when you watch females, it attracts families, moms, dads, mga lolo, pati mga Becky. Diba?
Ay, di ba sa men
mga community. So lahat, all genders. Pero sa basketball kasi usually men.
Correct.
It's the
Correct.
men who like to watch basketball.
Is it also because in terms of physicality, volleyball is one sport where the women hold their own against the men? It's just as fast, at least when I watch it. Parang,
Actually,
Iba yung
if you
game
compare-
ng lalaki sa babae.
Iba eh,
because
iba eh. Like, more people
skill
watch
difference
women.
is so much faster,
Yeah.
so much more powerful. It's a different beast on its own, but it has picked up also in the
So you
men's.
mean pagka women's volleyball, it's a little bit more
Slower.
strategic,
It's
slower,
The
so
game
mas
is slower.
cerebral, ganon.
So dati sinasabi nila dahil mas mabagal yung women's game, mas madaling panoorin. But now, there are more fans watching the men's. Kasi lumalaban din tayo. I mean, nagpe-place tayo sa Southeast, sa SEA Games. And then we do have the International Men's Championship
Yes.
here.
Correct.
It's going to be hosted by the Philippines. I
which
think
is-
it's FIVB yata.
Yes, it is FIVB.
which
We
is
did report
September
about
of
25,
next year, which is going to be huge. Just like our hosting of the FIBA.
Huge strides
Very,
for
very huge.
Philippine
But,
volleyball.
okay, I'm going to give you guys a tip in case it has slipped your mind. It is Mother's Day on Sunday, May 12. But one animals rights group says it is going to be an unhappy Mother's Day for female cows. And here I present you our big picture tonight. A woman painted as a cow in Makati. This is a Mother's Day protest held by non-profit organization PETA, or People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Other members of the group are holding a banner behind her, or the lady painted as a cow. that reads, Unhappy Mother's Day, cows suffer on dairy farms, go vegan. The women's position imitates how a cow is milked as an act of protest against the practices of the dairy industry and to call on consumers to boycott cow's milk. The group notes that cow's milk is intended for calves or baby cows and not humans. PETA also encourages the public to choose planet-friendly vegan milks.
There is a growing movement against dairy, I have to say, and there is, at least for parents, there is more people believing in the harm of giving cow's milk to infants and
I
babies.
myself am lactose intolerant, so apparently I get really inflamed, even if you don't notice it. I think most Asians are lactose intolerant.
A lot, a lot.
And my
certainly
friend's
are.
baby has some cow milk protein allergy. So
Hindi ko manifest siya sa bloating eh.
Oo, tsaka minsan di mo napapansin kung nagmamanas ka, at least you know you're getting inflamed, but sometimes it's affecting your insides. And hindi ako PETA, hindi rin ako vegan, but lactose intolerant ako.
Yeah, I think this movement is more popular in the West, but here in Asia, the problem is more that there's not enough dairy.
Yeah.
We have to import our milk still, our dairy, because in terms of nutrition, it is still one of the best, right, for babies and infants. So it's a funny problem.
We do have very little, you're right, a small dairy industry, but I do remember that I did have a farm show on this channel. I think it's still airing, and I did visit a dairy farm in Laguna, and the cows were, they were treated very well. When they were being milked, they play really nice classical music.
Talaga?
It's just like Wagyu.
Yeah.
You gotta treat them well in order to get the best produce, right?
Sa Bulacan din, meron din.
So
they
that's
play
what they
music, they eat top-grade grass.
Yeah.
Right? They're not stressed. They go on
They have
walks
enough
every day.
space.
They have enough space to play around. So, I don't know. But we're not taking any stance in terms of dairy.
To add to that discussion, wag nating kalimutan na Mother's Day on Sunday.
Yes. So don't forget, kung hindi pa kayo nakakabili ng gift sa mom nyo, may time pa kayo. Pwede pa mag-order online, may time pa ma-deliver. But that's it for the big story tonight.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night.